The bell is rung. I'm Josh Razauskas, and welcome to InRing Reality. I have not said those words in 3 years. The reasons for that are twofold. First of all, I didn't have equipment to be able to record for the longest time. And two, quite frankly, the tribalism in professional wrestling wore me down. And I got tired of not being able to just talk about the sport that I love without someone saying WWE is better, without someone saying AEW is better, or without someone saying my opinions are always wrong. But I've done a lot of soul searching recently, and I've realized that the whole point of being a creator is to do what you love. You're not going to please everyone. And if you don't mesh with someone, if you don't vibe with someone, you just bring down the block hammer and you move on. InRing Reality will, now that it's returned, forever be what I always said it was going to be. That is a space for wrestling fans just to simply give their thoughts on and enjoy the sport of professional wrestling. Nothing more and nothing less. With that out of the way, what brought me back after 3 years away? What's the second reason that I just had to come back? Well, folks, it's because we're getting this. We're getting Seth Rollins, the World Heavyweight Champion, I should specify, and his wife, the Women's Intercontinental Champion, the man, Becky Lynch, my single favorite female wrestling performer of all time, versus the voice of the voiceless, the returning to WWE for a number of years now, as weird as that is to say out loud, but he's back. CM Punk, the man, the myth, the legend, CM Punk, and his wife, AJ Lee. That's right, folks. For the first time in over a decade, we are going to get AJ Lee in WWE. And I'm going to tell you today, if you don't know, why this is so important from a business standpoint and from the overall greater good of the WWE product. From a business standpoint, couldn't be more simple. WWE PLEs are moving to ESPN Unlimited, a $30 subscription per month, despite the fact that many of us have things like YouTube TV or other cable replacements that have ESPN built in. Unless you're subscribed, which I am not, to one of those carriers that builds in the ESPN Unlimited subscription with your service, you still have to subscribe to ESPN separately, in addition to already having it on your provider, because you're not going to get all of the exclusive content that in what used to be known as ESPN Plus and is now known as ESPN Unlimited, because in addition to all of its live channels direct to consumer, it's offering the former ESPN Plus content and content like this. A multi-billion-dollar deal for the next few years with WWE Premium Live Events. So, you want to kick that off on September 20th at WrestlePalooza? There's no bigger way that you could do that than to give fans the ultimate dream match in mixed tag team form. The power couple and two of the best in the world, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, versus the other two best in the world, CM Punk and AJ Lee. But from an overall standpoint, what does this mean for WWE? Well, it means that AJ Lee is back. And if you happen to be a fan who didn't live through the Divas era, and you don't know why that's so difficult for wrestling fans to say out of their mouth, let me fill you in. The Divas era was an era in WWE history where the women were not treated as equals. The woman you see next to Seth, his wife Becky, the greatest female performer of all time, could never have existed in the Divas era because women were not treated as equals inside a WWE ring. And the one who was different, the one who was the outliner to all of that, before there was the Four Horsewomen, before there was even Paige, was AJ Lee. AJ Lee put on as good a matches as any man within the ring ever did. And still to this day has put on some of the greatest matches in women's wrestling history. And she did it with the constraint of an era where she wasn't given any time. Other than the fact that her husband, CM Punk, was let go at the time, the final straw that broke the camel's back for AJ Lee to leave WWE all those years ago was that her last match at WrestleMania was only given 5 minutes, in which she had a tag team victory with Paige. AJ had enough. Despite having her own version, the female version of the pipe bomb, before even marrying CM Punk, calling out the Divas era as exactly what it was. A bunch of women who wanted to be models or be reality television stars and didn't have any interest in being professional wrestlers. WWE still continued to not know what they had in AJ Lee. She was great in the ring, between the ropes, one of the greatest female performers of any generation. And she's wonderful just as her husband is, and just as her opponents are for this match. On the microphone, as I mentioned, she has her own female version of the pipe bomb. AJ Lee is lethal with that WWE microphone that you see in the photo in her hand. So, timing wise, why now? Well, I told you it's about WrestlePalooza, but it's also going to happen on the day that you most likely will see this uploaded because of how long it takes me to edit and render 4K on YouTube. On tonight's WWE SmackDown on the USA Network and Netflix internationally, because they are in Chicago, Illinois, the hometown of the two being CM Punk and AJ Lee. You're never going to get a bigger pop for an AJ Lee return than in Chicago, Illinois. And WWE is literally taking a page from their not competition that they were trying to go head to head with and force them to move to another time for AEW All Out, AEW All Elite Wrestling. Because what WWE is doing is exactly what AEW did when CM Punk returned to the ring for the first time in 7 years. When they didn't announce him by name, but they did all but tell people that he was going to be in Chicago on Rampage, and he came out. WWE is not going to say AJ Lee by name. CM Punk is not going to say AJ Lee by name, but you're going to see him come out, cut a promo. You're going to see Seth and Becky confront him in Chicago. The moment is going to come where it's 2 versus 1, and then we're going to hear, let's light it up, light it up, light it up, light it tonight, and we're going to get the biggest pop that we've gotten in Chicago since CM Punk returned to wrestling and AEW, and since CM Punk returned to WWE at Survivor Series 3 years ago. So that is why it's so important, because AJ Lee is just like her husband was. AJ Lee is the last person that many thought would never return. And AJ Lee is going to make the women's division better and give the women in WWE matches that they've never had before. And more importantly, at a time when the company has its new deal with ESPN Unlimited, it's going to bring back fans who haven't tuned in to wrestling in a number of years. Just like it brought back this podcast host to do his show. That is why the return of AJ Lee is so important to WWE. I hope you all enjoyed my thoughts on this, and I will of course break down what happens on SmackDown sometime on Saturday, preferably, depending on upload times. It may be Sunday because of college football and myself being a fan, and the fact that physically I cannot record right after SmackDown ends at 10 p.m. But I will be talking about it and talking about how this segment actually happened. But in the meantime, please let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on all this. How excited are you? And what do you think happens with this dream matchup? Now, this would normally be the point in the episode where I would tell you if you're interested to check out my previous video, but since I haven't done a video in 3 years, it's going to be on the screen, but I'm not going to force you to click on it. But if you're new here and you liked what you heard and you know that I'm going to be back now and you would like to stick around, please subscribe, because I'm back and I'm not going anywhere. This has been Josh Razauskas, and remember that life is only as good as what you choose to make it. So make the choice to go out and do something great today. And I'll see you next time inside that squared circle.